Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got a Master Duel video for you, and boy do I have one ever. So, this is a deck that I am actually very excited to be playing, and I've seen a lot of people say in the comments of the Sprite Synchro and the Monadium videos that, oh, these new decks have so many URs in them. Like, God, they're so expensive. Why aren't there any good cheap decks anymore? So, I thought I would show off a deck that is actually pretty solid and fairly cheap. We don't have any URs here that are within archetype. A lot of them are staples, like stuff like Maxx and Ash Blossom. We have Fenrirs. We do have a Blackwing Zephyros. That's going to be from a structure deck, though. And even in the extra deck, we have a lot of generic UR staples. Funnily enough, I did actually craft an Ancient Fairy Dragon for this deck. This has been pretty high on my to craft list for a while now, but this was finally the deck that pushed me over the edge to make it. What is this deck, you might ask? It is the one and only Gate Guardian deck. So yeah, the only UR within this archetype is the Gate Guardians combined, which it's nice to have a copy. It's not a bad card, but if you really wanted to play this archetype without it, you could definitely get away with doing that. Otherwise, all of their extra deck stuff is super rare besides that, and their main deck stuff is all super rare or lower. I think the only main deck card that's even a super rare is that, what, just the Shadow Ghoul of the Labyrinth, and that's it. Yeah, wow, that's actually it. So the archetype as a whole is like very, very cheap. Probably because it was in the same pack as a bunch of like Albaz and Visas lore. So naturally, those are going to eat up a lot of UR slots. So Gate Guardian kind of lucked out in that regard. So as far as this build here, I gotta give credit where credit is definitely due. Because for a lot of this, not even just a lot, for the vast majority of the inspiration of this build came from, who is this? Wish. Wish over on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel meta subreddit. Sorry, not the subreddit, the Discord server, that one. Not the subreddit, no. But no, Wish over in the Gate Guardian channel on the Master Duel meta Discord server provided a lot of insight in the pins of that channel, where they talked about the Armageddon Knight plays, and particularly why it's more effective than using Elemental Hero Prisma alongside a Hero Lives, because one of the first things I thought when I thought about this deck is like, oh, we just play Prisma, right? Because Prisma can send the Gate Guardian pieces and then treat its name as that, and that makes it easier to get the fusions. But the Armageddon Knight actually has a combo line that will also get out one of the Gate Guardian fusions, as well as an Appaloosa or another big Link monster on top of it. And I'll show you an iteration of that combo line. It'll be a little bit different because of the things and just circumstances of that duel, like the things I'll have in hand, etc. But the combo line definitely seems a lot more potent than just kind of randomly jamming a Hero Lives out for Prisma. And actually, the other reason why I'm definitely more in favor of playing Armageddon Knight, well, also, besides that I don't want to spend UR points for just a Hero Lives, is also the fact that I think activating a Hero Lives just to pay half your life points and get Ash Blossomed, or telegraph that you're comboing and get Maxx just feels really bad. So I think if the deck can get away without it, I would definitely not be opposed to playing without it. Kind of similarly to Monadium, although while Monadium's Hero Live does allow it to play under Baron, like that line, it does still have the issue of, again, being susceptible to, like, the Maxx and Ash Blossom as well. So, alright, let's talk about some of the other deck choices here. We're playing 3 of all of the relevant support cards. The Labyrinth Wall Shadow is very good. We also have a Pseudo Space as well, because Labyrinth Wall Shadow, this card is actually not, like, it says once per turn, but this is one of those quote-unquote soft once per turns, which means it's really once per turn per copy. So if you open 2 of these, you can play one, activate it, set a Gate Guardian piece, activate a second, set a different piece. You can also activate Pseudo Space, by sending the wall shadow you already have in play. Use Pseudo Space F to banish and copy the wall shadow, and you're good. It's also there for Ancient Fairy Dragon, right? Because Ancient Fairy Dragon adds a field spell with a different name. So if we have a Labyrinth wall shadow up, we can sync for Ancient Fairy Dragon, pop it, add the Pseudo Space copies the Labyrinth wall shadow, and we get the effect again anyway, even though it's a quote-unquote different field spell. Oh, also in the interest of adding Armageddon Knight, we're not only playing Rhoda, but that's also what the small worlds are here for. It's pretty easy to bridge into Armageddon Knight. Usually you use either the heavy tank or the Shadow Ghoul as your bridge from whatever cards you have in hand to the Armageddon Knight. We have Destrudo as part of our combo line. That's our second card we send with Armageddon Knight. The first actually being Zephyros. Again, with the Labyrinth Wall Shadow being a soft once per turn, and in that regard, you can actually end up using it multiple times per turn. We can activate Labyrinth Wall, set up one of our pieces, normal Armageddon Knight, send Zephyros, bounce the Labyrinth Wall Shadow, and then activate it again to send another piece. That's actually how we start the combo with Armageddon Knight. The combo being Armageddon Knight plus Labyrinth Wall Shadow. So, because our Armageddon Knight is, for some reason, limited in Master Duel, I know it's a very good card and a good combo starter, but I don't think this card is particularly breaking the game right now. Because this card is unfortunately limited, we have to rely on Rhoda and mostly Small World to help search it out. But like, once this card does get unlimited, because I think it's at 3 in at least one of the TCG or OCG, if not both. Once this card actually comes back to 3, this deck actually does get a lot more consistent as a result, funnily enough. The other kind of cute engine that we're playing, and again, shout out to Wish on the Discord server for this idea, is we're playing E-Tally for pretty much exactly the Joruri-P.U.N.K Madam Spider to grab the Dangerous Gabu. This seems highly specific, but I think it's actually pretty good. Between being able to normal summon the Heavy Tank and the Kashtria Fenrir, as well as the Gate Guardian pieces themselves being level 7 and often float when one of the fusions leaves the field, we will often have a stray level 7 body in play, allowing us to sync with the level 3 tuner for, a couple of good 10s. Oh, also, Ancient Fairy, that's yet another level 7 we can sync with, so might as well be the Gabu, or the Spider to add the Gabu, that being an extra negate. The Spider also very summonable off of E-Tally. I've also elected to play a single Ghost, Ogre, and Snow Rabbit just to have a good second E-Tally target that's also a level 3 tuner. And Ghost Ogre is also generally a pretty good card, so definitely did not mind having it for our games here. I've covered most of the extra deck already. There's a lot of generic Link stuff going on here. Big Eye is the only rank 7 I've elected to play, just because I'm not really trying to make rank 7s. You could definitely play more Kashtira cards and make this more of a rank 7 deck, but at that point I think you're kind of making a worse Kashtira deck, and not even necessarily a better Gate Guardian deck at that point. Bagooska is here if we get like Maxx and we have like the Armageddon Knight line. We can like Armageddon Knight, bounce Zephyros, make the Maxx. That's a couple of draws under Maxx, but I think like 2 draws to make a Bagooska is definitely worth it. And of course, like I said, we have the Gate Guardian fusions. We're playing one of each except Wind and Water we are playing 2 of, because this does end up being the best one. It just has the most useful effect of negating any spell or trap card. Once per chain, it can do that twice per turn, which is really good. Also, I pulled a Royal, which is very pretty, so gotta show that off. The Gate Guardians combined is actually not a bad card at all. It stops cards or effects that target, which is kind of situational, kind of not. It'll definitely come up in some of the games we're going to see. And if your opponent does manage to get rid of it, it does float into one of the other extra deck monsters. Let's see, the Wind and Water, the Water and Thunder, rather, can set monsters' attack to 0, which can be useful. Thunder and Wind is the least useful one. It just adds spell traps that mention Kazejin, Suijin, or whatever, which is mainly the Wall Shadow. We have, the 1 of double attack Wind and Thunder to have something else to add, but this is like just targeted destruction. It's not that good. Yeah, I think that ends up covering pretty much the whole list. So let's go ahead and break it down card by card, and then we'll see the Duelist Cup games that we end up playing with this deck. So we're on 2 Droll and Lockbird, 3 Maxx, 1 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 1 Joruri-P.U.N.K Madam Spider, 1 Armageddon Knight, 1 Blackwing Zephyros the Elite, 3 Shadow Ghoul of the Labyrinth. We have 1 Sanga of Thunder, 1 Kazejin, 1 Suijin, 1 Destrudo the Lost Dragon's Fission, 2 Kashtria Fenrir, 3 Labyrinth Heavy Tank, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 3 Small World, 1 Pseudo Space, 3 Labyrinth Wall Shadow, 2 Emergency Teleport, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Double Attack, Wind and Thunder, 2 Infinite Impermanence, and 1 Joruri-P.U.N.K Dangerous Gabu. That's going to do it for the main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 1 Gate Guardian of Thunder and Wind, 2 Gate Guardian of Wind and Water, 1 Gate Guardian of Water and Thunder, 1 Gate Guardians combined, 1 Ancient Fairy Dragon, 1 Baronne de Fleur, 1 Swordsoul Supreme Sovereign Chengying, 1 number 41 Bagooska, the terribly tired Tapir, 1 number 11 Big Eye, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Cross Sheep, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, and then 1 Access Code Talker. That'll do it for our list. Let's see these games now. Okay, seeing that we have reached the Duelist Cup, I was trying to say since and seeing at the same time there. Since we have reached the Duelist Cup, I'm not able to confirm my opponent's deck, see it in the replay before we hop into the game. I remember we have one of the games was against Labyrinth, which is kind of funny that we're using the Labyrinth deck against the Labyrinth deck, but I don't remember if it's this one or not. We're going to trade a Small World for the Armageddon Knight here, but we get Ash Blossom, which is a shame because this would have been full combo, but we still set up the Fenrir. We're going to Wall Shadow for the Suijin and just pass. Fenrir Ash Blossom is obviously not ideal, but we'll make do. Oh, I believe we played against Kashtira here, actually, if I'm remembering right. Brick Tier, more like it, given that they didn't have anything to do on turn 1 at all. They do have the Maxx for the Wall Shadow here, which the Wall Shadow doesn't actually special summon, it just places it in the spell trap zone. But I'm going to let it resolve. I only plan on doing 1 special summon this turn anyway for the Water and Wind. So I'll hang on to the Ash Blossom for a negate and to go into the Water and Wind here. And I am a lot more comfortable with this setup now. Now, rather than just having the Fenrir and Ash Blossom going into the opponent's turn for disrupts, I have still the Fenrir and Ash Blossom, but also the monster effect negate of the Imperm, as well as the double spell trap negate of the Gate Guardians of Wind and Water. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 disruptions to my opponent's 6 cards. Even if this board does not look like a lot. If they're going to start with the Imperm on the Fenrir, I'm going to Wind and Water that. I feel like if they're going to Imperm and try to get rid of the Fenrir and not even try to force the Wind and Water, they definitely want that Fenrir out of here. So they summon Rise Heart, revealing themselves to be Cash. I like using Imperm here and not the Fenrir. The reason I use the Imperm to negate and not the Fenrir F is because if I used Fenrir to banish the Rise Heart, they could just special summon their own Fenrir or Unicorn, potentially from the hand. Really any Kashtira monster, but if I negate with Imperm, now they have a monster on the field. They can't special any cash monsters from hand. Also, the Rise Heart's going to be level 4, so they can't do Xyz plays with it. So, they do have the Birth here. I will negate the Birth effect. One other thing I want to note, because the Gate Guardians of Wind and Water just negates, it does not negate and destroy. If your opponent is activating a continuous spell card like Birth that has a separate activated effect, you want to chain not when they activate the card from hand, but when they activate of the effect rather of the card on the field. Because if you chain it when they activate from hand, it doesn't actually destroy it. So the card will still resolve, and I believe it works like this. I believe they'll be able to just activate the effect anyway. Because this also doesn't negate the card until the end of the turn. It just negates that effect. But again, it doesn't destroy it. So the card still stays on the field, and they can just use it later. Again, I believe is how that would work. So that's why I waited for the Birth to resolve and then activate the effect. This does allow them to Kurikara my Wind and Water away, but that in turn will allow me to activate the effect to bring back one of my pieces. I'm going to Ash Blossom also the Maxx here, because I know my opponent's hand really wasn't that great before. I definitely want to keep them on a brick to hand here. I'll get back my Suijin, and in fact, now that I'm seeing all this play out, it seems like my opponent's hand is probably something like Kurikara, Birth, and then just a bunch of these like generic disruption tools. I think the Rise Heart is what unbricked them here, to try to get the Unicorn off the Birth for a Theosis into their plays. So now I'm going to use Fenrir to get rid of the Kurikara, so that way he can't battle over any of my stuff. The E-Tally is definitely a great draw, but I don't even need it here. I can just use Fenrir to battle. Don't even need to banish the Rise Heart. We'll just get rid of the Birth, and then Suijin can then swing in for lethal. So there you go. The opponent had Disruption to stop our otherwise full combo, but thankfully for us, it was Kashtira, and they didn't have any kind of a meaningful follow-up play. Now, they did have a lot of Disruption, but as you can see, this deck can put up a surprising amount of its own Disruption for very minimal amount of special summons or searching and all that fun stuff. So, got a few more Duelist Cup games to watch. Let's go straight into those. Okay, I think this was the Labyrinth game. Last one was Kashtira. I think this is, again, we're taking Labyrinth against Labyrinth, funnily enough. So, ooh, going second against Labyrinth as well. And oh, look at this hand. Oh my god, this is like a custom going first hand. It's really too bad we have to go second here. So they're going to Ariana for the Labyrinth. The Labyrinth getting their Labyrinth against the Labyrinth deck. Setting up the Welcome, activating their field spell, and thankfully, yeah, they just pass here. So they also Dragolier to send another Dragolier, so it seems like their opening hand might not have been super great. I'm going to start with E-Tally to see if I can bait something out here. They end up having a Maxi, which I'll call by the grave. I was trying to see if they had like an Ash Blossom or something. I basically want them to think I'm a much different deck than I am, which is why I'm leading with E-Tally for the Punk Joruri Madam Spider here. And sure enough, they do actually end up using their big welcome right here, which is, again, very good for me. This is what I wanted. So they're going to bounce their Ariana, use the field spell to pop my card, and then now they're going to pop a card from hand. I really want this to hit either of the field spells. That would be very good for me. It doesn't even matter which one, honestly. It is the Ghost Ogre, really, as long as it wasn't Rhoda. Because, again, Rhoda plus the Wall Shadow, this Armageddon Knight plus Wall Shadow is a full combo. So we're going to start with the Wall Shadow for the Suijin. Normal summon Armageddon Knight. Send to the Zephyros. Zephyros F is going to bounce the Wall Shadow, special summoning itself. We think it to activate the Wall Shadow again. Wall Shadow effect for the Sanga of Thunder. Now, normally, you would actually get Kazejin here, because if you're only going to be able to make one Gate Guardians monster, especially if this were a turn 1 combo, you'd want to make the Water and Wind. However, because I have the extra extender of Pseudo Space, I get to set up all 3 pieces in my spell trap zone. So that's why I'm going for Sanga here. Oh, the other reason to go for Sanga here is because it is turn 2, right? And although spell trap negation is obviously very good against Lab, if they disrupt me here, I want to be able to get over the lovely Lab and be able to actually beat over it. And the Sanga plus Suijin makes Water and Thunder, which is the one that sets their attack to 0. Generally speaking, for the first Labyrinth card to set up, I like to put the Suijin down first, because the two better of the 2 combination cards, in my opinion, are the Water and Wind and the Thunder and Water. The Thunder and Wind, again, just ends up being very situational of when you actually want this effect. So, for the first one, I highly recommend Suijin, and then following it up with, again, whichever one you need. But here, like I said, we have the extra extender of Pseudo Space, so we can set up all 3. I'm going to link the Armageddon Knight and Zephyros into Cross Sheep, and then put my Fusion in one of the Cross Sheep zones. This brings back the Armageddon Knight. Armageddon Knight sends Destrudo, and Destrudo effect activates. Now here I can make Appaloosa, or what I like to do here was go for the Nightmare Unicorn, and then follow up with the Access Code Talker. Now I can use the Access Code Talker to banish my 2 Link monsters in grave, pop their Lovely Lab, and then pop my own field spell to be able to swing in for lethal, because this prevents me from attacking with Access Code. Except, oops, I misplayed, and totally forgot that the field spell did that, so I don't actually get to swing in for lethal here. That is definitely a misplay on my part, but I do still have the Cross Sheep in the graveyard. I very easily could have done it, I just didn't think about it, but at the same time, I'm not that worried about it, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, because we do still have the Gate Guardians combined, and a lot of these Labyrinth effects do target. So, I'm not really super worried. Plus, worst case scenario, if they get rid of both these, I still float into one of the Gate Guardian cards anyway. Yep, here's the Lady Lab. There's the Welcome Lab. We get to use the Gate Guardians effect to negate the big Welcome Lab effect that's trying to bounce the Access Code Talker. And opponent is not able to do anything. They battle into my access code and then just pass right back over to me. So they're definitely at more than low enough life points. Again, this duel already should have been over if I had just paid attention to my own effects, but we're just going to finish them off on the follow-up turn anyway. So there you have it. There's us going second against Labyrinth and not only coming back, but also having OTK capabilities using the Gate Guardians combined itself. I knew I was immediately loving this deck as soon as I finished this game. I was like, this deck's fucking sweet. This deck is cool. Let's go into the next game here. Okay, this game, if I'm remembering right, should be against Dragon Link. Yeah, we actually did face off against a fair number of meta decks here in the Duelist Cup with our Labyrinth deck, and we are going second yet again. We do have both Ghost Ogre and Imperm. This hand's actually looking very good. But it's going to lead with the Bestial Lubellion. Lubellion F will add the Bestial Magnum Hut. Magnum Hut is going to end up banishing the Lubellion out of the graveyard in order to summon itself and activating the effect. I won't Imperm this, but the main reason I didn't Imperm is because I thought they were going to have more follow-up. They didn't. They just safer to have plays on the follow-up turn. They are going to Maxx C here. I'll go ahead and chain the E-Telly. The Maxx C does definitely deter me from making plays, although to be fair, I don't have access to the Labyrinth Wall Shadow, so I don't really know how many plays I could realistically make here anyway. I'm going to normal summon the Heavy Tank, put the Suijin on the board just to get it out there and also get it out of the deck. We'll do one special summon. We'll synchro summon for Baron, giving them one draw. Just let me swing in, and now I'm looking like, even though I'm not able to finish them off in turn because of Maxx C, and also just because of my hand, I think in general, we still have a lot of plays here. So we have multiple trap cards that negate monster effects. I'll use one of them on the Saferd here. That's going to force them to go into the Striker Dragon. They don't get a Surge because they already have the Boot Sector launch in hand, which I'm going to chain with the Ghost Ogre. The opponent's going to call by here. However, let me actually let the chain resolve. Yeah, there we go. I'm actually not going to chain my Baron on the call by effect. The reason I elected not to do this is because I was like, you know what? They'll drop Tracer, but I can always just negate that with Imperm, or negate that with Baron. Like, I just don't feel the need to negate the Boot Sector, or even what they bring out after they use the Tracer, you know? I just don't feel the need to make sure this Boot Sector doesn't resolve at all. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm letting this call by go through. This is fine. So yeah, that's going to negate my Ghost Ogre, but again, not a huge problem. And then they just summon a Recharger anyway, so it's like, it's totally fine. Striker and Recharger link for Dark. I think they want me to negate and destroy this with Baron, so that way they get the Surge, but I'm just going to Imperm it. Now, they can still run it into my Baron if they want to get a Surge, but that's going to cost them their battle phase, and they don't even do that, they just pass here, so. They're at 5k. I pretty much know I'm in the clear at this point. I'm going to use Small World. They have an Ash Blossom. That's 100% fine. It's not that big of a deal. Oh, no, wait. I'm going to actually Baron this. And I think they actually concede here. Oh, I'm trying to remember what I was going to add with the Small World. Because, okay, they're at 5k. Well, you know what? I have the Zephyros in hand, too. So I could just, I'm sure I'd be able to find lethal. Oh, you know what? Duh. I can Small World for the Ghoul. That's right. I can Small World for the Ghoul, and then I can use that to find the field spell and set up the other piece, and then summon one of my Gate Guardian fusion monsters. That's what it was. Okay. I knew I was going to figure it out at some point. Plus, we also have the Zephyros we can normal summon too. So, all right. Let's go ahead and see. I think this is that was our third game, right? Yeah, let's see our last duel for this video. This one, I actually remember this one too. Wow, I don't usually have this good a memory, but when it comes to remembering Duelist Cup games, this one was against Vanquish Soul. So, yeah, I wanted to make sure I showed off games against meta-relevant decks. For meta-relevant decks, if I was going to be playing with a deck like Gate Guardian. Now, unfortunately, this hand was a pretty hard brick. I'm just going to have to set Zephyros and the, what is it called? Gabu, and then pass here. Small World's going to grab a Raisin. That makes the Drolls actually in hand very good. We're definitely going to fire off the Droll, and the opponent just passes here. So we do get the opportunity to hopefully crack back. The Labyrinth Wall Tank the Labyrinth heavy tank rather, is like, meh. This Maxx from the opponent wasn't necessary because I'm not going to special summon anyway this turn. Unfortunately, the tank cannot attack the turn it was normal summoned, even though I can normal summon it without tributing. So, only 1600 damage here. Raisin is now coming down. I'm actually going to negate that with Gabu because I know this search is very important. And this will also prevent them from popping the heavy tank with Raisin's effect. So, I wanted to do that instead of just drolling and letting them get the search and also have the ability to destroy my monster. They do end up having the Xiaolong in hand, though. So, they get to summon that. They get to summon the Rock of the Vanquisher as well. Adding back that Raisin. Now we get to add, yeah, another monster by revealing that Ash Blossom and Raisin. The Borger, whatever it is. Yeah, I decided to use Borger here because we know they have a Mad Love in hand, and at the very least, the Droll will stop the draw, you know, if, again, nothing else at all, so. Alright, we do have another chance to draw here, and we do find the Shadow Ghoul, so this will represent, hopefully, another Gate Guardian piece. They could have Ash Blossomed here, but it seemed like they were instead letting me cook, because they definitely could have Ash Blossomed that Shadow Ghoul, and it just would have been absolutely game over for me. But they let me at it, so Xiaolong revealing the Raisin and the Ash Blossom to add the Valius here. Yeah, the Caesar Valius. We're going to activate the field spell, but unfortunately the Valius gets to come down, and as we all know, this can destroy a card on the field, so it can do it as a quick effect as well, so they can even wait until I activate the field spell effect, which is what they end up doing. Not that it matters, because again, this is a soft once per turn. It's not like... The difference, by the way, between soft once per turn and not is that it just says once per turn. It doesn't say you can only activate, you know, the effect of Labyrinth Wall Shadow once per turn, right? So, yeah, as you can see, not even going to really be able to go for... Well, no, they do let me go for the Synchro. Oh, but they get to use Mad Love to just bounce the monster I summoned, right? The Ancient Fairy Dragon, so... Oh, no, they don't use the bounce effect. They just use the stat reduction. That's right. And yeah, I mean, at this point, I'll throw it in fast forward because they very easily have the lethal. They just have to get the actual damage on the board here. They get the burn as well with the Borger, and then they get to swing in for lethal. So, you know, I'm not going to try to pretend like Gate Guardian is a sleeper meta deck that you can totally sweep the Duelist Cup with, but... I had a lot of fun playing in the Duelist Cup. I definitely did. And I will also say that the deck is better than it might seem like on paper. I'm not going to pretend like, you know, I'm willing to call it a lower rogue deck. I think if you were a dedicated enough pilot, you could reach Master with this deck, but I'm not going to pretend like it's again, a sleeper meta threat. But more importantly than anything else, it's really, really fun. That's going to go ahead and do it for this video. Let us now move to our outro. Alright everybody, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching it all the way to the very end. That means a whole lot to me, and it's also a fantastic way to support the channel. And if you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways besides YouTube, there are plenty of ways to do that. If you check out the description below, you'll find a bunch of links down there. One of them goes to my Patreon. You're actually seeing the names of everyone subscribed to the Patreon on the screen right now. So if you're interested in getting your name in the credits here at the end, if you want to see more daily Master Duel content, or if you're interested in one-on-one private coaching sessions, I offer all of that on Patreon. I also stream live on Twitch. Feel free to go ahead and click that link and follow and or subscribe there. I also have the Discord community, if you want to follow that link, where hundreds of duelists have already signed up. Free to join, and you can just come hang out, talk about the game, and chill in general. Final link that's going to be in the description is my Twitter. You can follow that if you want some more notifications of what's happening with the channel. So, all in all, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.